I'm sitting alone in detention at the old, abandoned school. The windows are cracked and the wind howls through the halls, sending shivers down my spine. I can't help but feel like I'm being watched, like there's someone, or something, lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, I hear a creaking noise coming from the classroom door. My heart races as I look towards it, but there's no one there. I try to calm myself down, telling myself that it's just the old building settling. But then, I hear footsteps coming closer and closer, and I can't deny that I'm not alone anymore. I try to stand up and leave, but my body refuses to move. I'm frozen in place, my eyes glued to the door as it slowly creaks open. A chill runs down my spine as a shadowy figure steps into the room. I can't see its face, but I can feel its presence, and it's not friendly. My heart is pounding in my chest as the figure approaches me. I try to scream, but no sound comes out. The figure is getting closer and closer, until it's right in front of me. I can feel its icy breath on my face as it reaches out and touches me. Suddenly, I'm surrounded by a swarm of ghostly apparitions. They're whispering in my ear, taunting me, telling me that I'll never leave this place alive. I try to fight them off, but I'm powerless against their supernatural strength. I realize now that I've made a terrible mistake by coming to this haunted school by myself. I'm trapped here, with no one to help me, and the ghosts are closing in. I can feel their cold fingers wrapping around my neck, squeezing the life out of me. As I take my last breath, I realize that I'm just another victim of this haunted school. I'll never leave this place, and my soul will be trapped here forever, just like the countless others who have met their end in this cursed building. But then, just as I think all hope is lost, I hear a voice calling out to me. It's faint at first, but it grows louder and more distinct with each passing moment. Hey! Hey, are you okay? I blink my eyes open, my vision hazy and my head throbbing. In front of me stands a figure, their face blurry and indistinct. But I know that voice. It's my teacher, Ms. Jenkins. Ms. Jenkins, I croak out, my voice raspy and weak. What happened? You had a seizure, kiddo, she tells me, her voice gentle but urgent. I found you unconscious in your chair. We need to get you to a hospital. She helps me to my feet, and I stumble as I try to keep my balance. My head is still spinning, and my body feels weak and shaky. But somehow, I manage to make it out of the classroom and into the hallway. As we make our way towards the exit, I can't help but glance back over my shoulder. The school is just as I remembered it, old, decrepit, and utterly abandoned. But there's something different now, something that makes my heart race and my blood run cold. In the dim light of the hallway, I see shadows moving. I hear whispers, and footsteps, and the faint sound of laughter. And I know, deep in my gut, that I'm not alone. The ghosts of the haunted school are still here, waiting for their next victim. And though I'm leaving this place behind, I know that I'll never forget the terror that I experienced in detention. As Ms. Jenkins and I approach the exit, I can feel a cold breeze blowing through the hallway. It's as if the school itself is trying to keep me here, to prevent me from leaving and becoming just another lost soul trapped in its walls. I try to shake off the feeling and focus on the task at hand. But as we push open the door and step outside, I hear a blood-curdling scream echoing through the empty courtyard. Help me, it cries. Please, someone help me. Ms. Jenkins and I freeze, our eyes darting around frantically as we try to locate the source of the screams. But there's nothing there, nothing but the dark, foreboding outline of the haunted school looming in the distance. We make our way to the car, but I can't shake the feeling that we're being watched. I keep glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see a ghostly figure lurking behind us. But each time I look, there's nothing there. Finally, we reach the car and Ms. Jenkins helps me into the passenger seat. As she starts the engine and pulls out of the parking lot, I let out a deep breath, relieved to be leaving the haunted school behind. But even as we drive away, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being followed. I can feel eyes on me, watching my every move, and I know that the ghosts of the haunted school aren't done with me yet. As we turn onto the main road and leave the school far behind, I close my eyes and try to will away the fear and the memories. But I know that I'll never forget the horror that I experienced in detention, and the knowledge that the ghosts of the haunted school are still out there, waiting for their next victim. Days pass, and I try to convince myself that what happened at the haunted school was just a hallucination brought on by stress and lack of sleep. But the feeling of being watched never goes away, and each night I'm plagued by nightmares of ghostly figures and haunting whispers. One night, as I'm lying in bed, I hear a tapping at my window. I try to ignore it, but it grows louder and more insistent. Slowly, I get out of bed and approach the window, my heart pounding in my chest. As I look out into the darkness, I see a figure standing just beyond the glass. It's hard to make out in the dim light, but I can see that it's tall and thin, with long, spindly fingers reaching out towards me. I try to scream, but my voice is caught in my throat. The figure begins to tap on the glass again, and I can hear a voice whispering in my ear, telling me to let it in. Suddenly, the tapping stops and the figure disappears into the night. I'm left alone, trembling and unsure of what to do next. Over the next few weeks, the tapping at my window becomes a regular occurrence. Each time, the figure gets closer and closer, until I can see its pale, gaunt face and its empty, black eyes staring back at me. I try to tell myself that it's just a hallucination, that there's no such thing as ghosts. But deep down, I know that the ghosts of the haunted school are still out there, and that they're coming for me. One night, I wake up to find the figure standing at the foot of my bed. It's inches away from me, its breath hot on my face. I try to scream, but again, no sound comes out. The figure reaches out and touches me, and I feel a cold, clammy hand close around my wrist. Suddenly, I'm transported back to the haunted school, sitting alone in detention as the ghosts close in around me. I try to fight them off, but they're too strong. They drag me down into the darkness, their voices echoing in my ears as I'm consumed by terror and despair. When I wake up the next morning, I'm back in my own bed. But I know that the ghosts of the haunted school are still out there, and that they're coming for me. And as the tapping at my window starts up again, I realize that I'll never be truly safe again. The tapping at my window becomes more frequent, and I can't escape the feeling that the ghosts of the haunted school are getting closer and closer. Every night, I'm haunted by their whispers and their cold, bony fingers reaching out to touch me. I try to tell someone about what's happening, but no one believes me. They think I'm just imagining things, that it's all in my head. But I know the truth. I know that the ghosts of the haunted school are real, and that they're coming for me. One night, I wake up to find the figure standing at the foot of my bed again. This time, it's not alone. It's brought friends with it, other ghostly figures with twisted, contorted faces and eyes that seem to glow in the darkness. They surround me, their fingers digging into my flesh as they pull me down into the depths of the haunted school. I try to fight back, but it's no use. They're too strong, too determined to drag me into their world of terror and despair. As we descend deeper and deeper into the haunted school, I can hear the sounds of other lost souls crying out in terror. I can feel their fear and their desperation, and I know that I'm not alone in my nightmare. Finally, we reach the heart of the haunted school, a dark, twisting labyrinth of corridors and shadows. The ghosts push me forward, urging me deeper into the darkness. I try to resist, but I'm powerless against their will. They lead me to a room at the end of a long, winding hallway, a room that's shrouded in darkness and filled with the stench of decay. As they push me into the room, I see something move in the corner of my eye. It's a shadowy figure, with long, tangled hair and a face twisted in a grotesque grin. It's the ghost of the school's principal, and it's coming for me. I try to run, but the ghosts hold me back. They force me to watch as the principal approaches, its long, spindly fingers reaching out to touch me. And then, suddenly, I wake up. I'm back in my own bed, safe and sound. But the memory of the haunted school lingers on, a constant reminder that the ghosts are always watching, always waiting for their next victim. Days pass, and I try to convince myself that the horrors of the haunted school were just a nightmare, a figment of my imagination. But the memory of those cold, bony fingers gripping my wrist and the sinister whispers in my ear refuses to fade. As I go about my daily routine, I notice that the world around me seems darker, more ominous. Shadows stretch out unnaturally, and strange sounds echo through the empty hallways of my home. And then, one night, I hear it. The tapping at my window. At first, I try to ignore it, but it grows louder and more insistent until I can't stand it anymore. I approach the window slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. As I peer out into the darkness, I see a figure standing just beyond the glass. It's hard to make out in the dim light, but I can see that it's tall and thin, with long, spindly fingers reaching out towards me. I try to scream, but my voice catches in my throat. The figure begins to tap on the glass again, and I can hear a voice whispering in my ear, telling me to let it in. Suddenly, the tapping stops and the figure disappears into the night. But I know that it's not over. The ghosts of the haunted school have found me, and they won't stop until they've claimed me as their own. As the days pass, I become more and more paranoid, jumping at every sound and cowering at every shadow. I can feel the ghosts watching me, their cold, empty eyes fixed on me even when I'm alone. And then, one night, I wake up to find them surrounding me. They're everywhere, their twisted faces looming in the darkness as they close in on me. I try to fight back, but it's no use. They're too strong, too determined to drag me down into their world of terror and despair. And then, just as suddenly as they appeared, they're gone. I'm left alone, trembling and unsure of what to do next. But I know that the ghosts of the haunted school will never truly leave me. They'll always be there, watching, waiting for the moment when they can claim me as their own. As I sit alone in detention, my mind is consumed with the terror of the haunted school. The memories of the ghosts and their twisted faces seem to follow me wherever I go, haunting me even in the relative safety of the classroom. Suddenly, the door to the classroom creaks open, and a figure steps inside. It's the janitor, an old man with a kindly face and a gentle demeanor. At first, I'm relieved to see someone else in the room with me. But then I notice something strange about the janitor. His movements are slow and deliberate, almost mechanical in their precision. As he approaches me, I realize that something is very wrong. His eyes are empty, devoid of any warmth or humanity. And then I notice his hands, they're cold and bony, just like the hands of the ghosts that haunt the school. In that moment, I know the truth. The janitor is one of the ghosts, a malevolent spirit that has been stalking me since I first set foot in the haunted school. But just as I'm about to succumb to the terror of the situation, a second figure bursts into the room. It's the school's principal, his face twisted in a grotesque grin. For a moment, I'm certain that I'm doomed. But then, the principal turns on the janitor, lashing out with long, spindly fingers that seem to cut through the air like blades. In the chaos that follows, I manage to slip out of the classroom and make a break for freedom. As I run down the deserted hallway, I can hear the sounds of the ghosts in pursuit, their twisted laughter echoing through the empty halls. But then, just as suddenly as they appeared, they're gone. I'm left alone once again, gasping for breath and wondering if I've truly escaped their clutches. It's only later, when I've had time to process the events of the day, that I realize the true double plot twist. The janitor, who I'd assumed was a ghost, was actually the principal's son, possessed by the same malevolent spirit that had taken hold of his father. And the principal, who I'd feared was coming to claim me as his own, was actually fighting against the very same spirit that had claimed his son's soul. In the end, it was the principal who saved me from the ghosts of the haunted school, even as he fought his own internal battle against the forces of darkness. As I run down the deserted hallway, my heart pounding in my chest, I can't shake the feeling that the ghosts of the haunted school are still hot on my heels. Every creak and moan of the old building sends shivers down my spine, and I can feel their cold, bony fingers reaching out for me in the darkness. Suddenly, I hear a noise coming from behind me. I spin around, ready to face whatever horrors lie in wait, but there's nothing there. Just an empty hallway, bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight. As I continue on my frantic journey, the noises grow louder and more insistent. I can hear the whispers of the ghosts, urging me to turn back and face them. I can feel their cold breath on my neck, sending chills down my spine. And then, just as suddenly as they appeared, the noises stop. I'm left standing in the middle of the hallway, my heart racing and my mind consumed with fear. For a moment, I'm certain that the ghosts have given up the chase. But then, a figure appears in front of me. It's the principal, his face twisted in a grotesque grin. At first, I'm terrified. But then he speaks, his voice soft and gentle. "Please, don't be afraid," he says. "I'm here to help you." I'm not sure whether to trust him or not. After all, this is the same man who had been possessed by the malevolent spirit of the haunted school. But something in his voice makes me want to believe him. So I follow him, down a series of dark, winding hallways and up a flight of stairs. Finally, we reach a small room at the top of the school. The principal motions for me to enter, and I step inside cautiously. The room is dark, lit only by a single candle on a table in the corner. As my eyes adjust to the dim light, I see something that makes my blood run cold. The walls of the room are covered in strange, arcane symbols, drawn in what looks like blood. The principal steps forward, his eyes fixed on me. "I know it's hard to believe," he says, "but I'm not the one you should be afraid of. There's something much darker and more powerful than me at work here." As he speaks, I can hear a low, rumbling growl coming from somewhere in the darkness. The ghosts of the haunted school are still out there, waiting for their chance to claim me as their own. But with the principal by my side, I know that I might just have a chance to survive. Suddenly, the principal's body convulses, and his eyes roll back into his head. The malevolent spirit of the haunted school has returned, and it has taken over his body once again. I try to run, but the principal's ghostly hand clamps down on my shoulder, and I'm frozen in place. "You thought you could escape," he hisses, his voice distorted and inhuman. "But you're mine now." I close my eyes, bracing for the worst, but nothing happens. When I open them again, the principal is gone, and I'm standing in the deserted classroom, alone. It takes me a moment to realize that the ghosts are gone. The school is silent, and there's no trace of the malevolent spirit that had been haunting it for so long. Slowly, I make my way to the exit, my heart pounding in my chest. As I step out into the cool night air, I feel a sense of relief wash over me. I've made it out alive. But as I turn to look back at the school, I see something that makes me stop dead in my tracks. The building is gone, replaced by an empty field. For a moment, I'm certain that I must be dreaming. But as I stare at the field, I realize that something is moving in the grass. I squint, trying to get a better look, and suddenly, I see it. The ghosts of the haunted school, still trapped in their eternal torment, but now free from the confines of the building. As they swirl around me, their spectral hands reaching out to claim me, I realize that the malevolent spirit was just a small part of the greater evil that lurks in this place. I turn and run, never looking back, as the ghosts of the haunted school fade into the darkness behind me. Information with you. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.